morning and happy Monday. Welcome back to the Sideline Grind, episode 7. Had a little bit different of an interview today. We did 2 guests, both my high school coaches actually in basketball, Todd and Tom Negoshian. They had an overall record in counting, 444 and 300. So not too shabby. They've been around the block, have so much experience, and really do a great job educating youths and contributing to their growth in enabling them to be successful after high school and after college. Webbs, what were some things that you really pulled for this?
Yeah, first off, great interview. Fun. It was interesting to have 2 on. I thought it was awesome and great having double the perspective, double the experience of a coach, and then them being family members. But I guess my main takeaway from the podcast, from the interview, would be how important it is as a coach, or just even as a person in position of being a mentor, how you're really embracing that role, not being apologetic for being hard on your players, but love them and know that it should not be about the wins and losses. That should be a byproduct of the attitude, the effort, and the culture that you install in your players. And that's, something that they've, the family's had now going at your high school for whatever, 30, 40 years now.
Yeah, 35 years, yeah. Yeah, and I was able to experience all those things firsthand. And I guess one of the things that I really learned, and it's kind of the main reason we started this podcast is Coach Nogues highlights at the end of the podcast, you don't get into coaching for the money. And if you are, then you're not meant to be a coach. And I think it might get lost throughout the coaching grind that some of these guys go through, but you really are in it to develop youth, to develop young kids, and in trying to make them better. And not a lot of these kids, or depending at what level you're at or what city you're in, but not everybody has a great dad or a great mom or great role models that they can look up to. And that's what, Coach Nogues and Toddy emphasize. And that's why they're in this industry. So I think it's a breath of fresh air to dwell on their experiences and enable our audience to learn from, what they've gone through with that 35, 40 years of total experience. With that being said, crew, hope you guys all enjoy. Todd and Tom Negoshian. Okay, we'd like to welcome on our next guest. First time doing 2 interviewees at the same time, father, son, and very close to me. We got Todd and Tom Negoshian. They're my high school basketball coaches, so legends around the Metro Detroit area at North Farmington High School. Coach Nogues and Toddy, how y'all doing today?
Doing great, Steven. Any better?
Doing great. Thank you for the opportunity to be on tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. I mean, just getting to stare at Coach Nogo for 45 minutes, you can't really complain over here. I haven't seen that hair in a long time. I don't know where it was for the whole time he was coaching all of us.
It's all about image, brother. All about image now. Okay.
That social media is going to your head a little bit.
It has. The grandmas think it look good, so I try to wear it longer now. Them grandmas, man, they're crazy women.
Oh, man. I love it. I love it. So to give everybody a little background, a little history. So Coach Nogues coached at my high school for on and off as the head coach for about 25 years. And his son, Toddy, coached underneath him and now took over for Coach Nogo when he left back in 2011, I think it was.
I think so. Maybe 2010. 2011 might have been the first year.
Cool. Yep. So you waited for me to leave before you took over.
It was all planned out perfect for us.
Yeah. That tells you something, doesn't
it? Yeah. Okay. So I have a list of questions, a lot of stuff to cover today. But there was a little hiatus where you left North, and you coached Toddy. First question is for Coach Nogues. What was it like coaching for your son?
Well, I was going to watch him play, and then I had the opportunity to be on the bench with him and his brother. And to be honest with you, it was probably more important for my wife and their mom for the first time, she could be in one gym and see all three of us at the same time. So that was kind of nice for her. But it was outstanding. I got to sit in the number one chair to the head coach next to him and got to watch him and his brother play. And then, at the end of that, Stephen, I was not planning on coming back to North. I was just going to go watch Todd play in college. And Coach Mantilla, was an assistant, and he talked me into coming back to North as long as he was going to be my assistant. If I could not miss Todd playing basketball. So that's kind of the ins and outs. I had left North once before that, too, because I went to college and coached. And then, the second kid, which is Todd, and then at that point said, I can't coach college anymore. You don't make enough money. So I came back and coached high school ball at North Farmington, became the head coach.
And the rest is history from there.
The rest is history, as they say, yeah. 50 years of history, Stephen.
Would you have been upset or wouldn't have been as fun if he wasn't such a baller and an all-state hooper?
No, I didn't push either one of them. I just wanted them to grow up in an environment with athletes, young people that learned how to work hard, how to be disciplined, and that happened. And fortunately for both of them, because they're both in coaching now, it's kind of neat because we have that common bond besides father and son and all the other things. We have basketball as a common bond also. Worked out very, very well for the family.
That's great. That's great. And then Toddy, I'll flip the script. What was it like playing, for your dad? I mean, coaching for your dad, and then taking over for your dad.
It's been kind of a dream come true. Growing up playing for him, to have him always there, be able to help me with everything as a player and as a person, and then to get the opportunity to coach with him was just it was a great honor. It was a lot of fun. I was able to learn a lot from him and just kind of listen and watch and sit back when I first started coaching with him. And then when I came back from my second stint with him after I had left Oakland University as an assistant, to be his assistant and his JV coach and really kind of get ready to have my own program. And I really didn't want to take over for him at North. That was never really something I wanted to do because of the success he had. I thought it would be hard to follow in those footsteps. And it's just been, the switch from being his assistant to being the head coach and him being my assistant now, just flipping those two chairs has been unbelievable. And, we're fortunate at North. We had a great principal who, Rick Jones, who, when my dad resigned and retired, basically called me into his office and just said, I know you don't want to be the basketball coach, but congratulations, you're our next basketball coach. And like you said, it's just kind of taken off from there. We've had a lot of success that, you guys all started for us in the program. And, we've been fortunate to carry it on for a long tradition of doing what's right in athletics and what it's about. And I'm just very fortunate. It's been a great opportunity to play for him, to coach with him, and to coach for him when I was his assistant. And it's been great.
And did you feel, you talked about not wanting to take over for him because it's such a reputation to live up to. Did you really feel a lot of pressure before diving into that role?
I don't know if it was pressure, but I just felt like the expectations for the program were so high and in some ways so unrealistic in some aspects because we never really had basketball players. We didn't have tons of talent. We had great kids who really bought into playing hard and doing what we believed in with being great teammates and being unselfish. And the success that you guys had there, the foundation that was laid, it was going to be hard to continue to have that consistently year after year. And, I just felt like it might be better for me to go plant my roots somewhere else and start fresh. And, thank goodness for Rick Jones, who just gave me the job and patted me on the back that day because it's been great. It's been to continue the program the way we've been able to, the success we've been able to have. And, it's been great, but more importantly, it's the relationships we got in the building with the teachers, with the counselors, with the hall monitors. It's that stuff takes years and years to build when you're trying to build a program. And with that foundation already laid, I mean, it was a very smooth transition for us, and it was very, very good I think, for the kids too.
Hey, Toddy, this is Adam, and I guess I want to ask you, when you're taking over not only a program with an established, tradition and history, the feeders to those programs, that high school programs, your youth basketball. How have you seen kind of the youth basketball scene kind of change, or has that kind of remained the same, and that's why you guys have been able to maintain such a solid tradition? Or I guess, how are you, trying to feed those next up and coming athletes and preparing them for high school ball?
I think our success has been a big key to it, the long term of it. I mean, I think my dad went back to North Farmington and the school year from 1998, 99. And I think once since then, we've been under 500. And I think that kind of really, from the feeder programs, the young kids coming up in our middle schools, that's really been the key to it, is how successful we've been, the people we've been able to compete with, because we'll play anybody in the state at any time. That's just kind of been our philosophy, our motto. And we play in the toughest league in the state. And then youth basketball, I think, has changed it. I think AAU, in Michigan, we have open enrollment for schools. So that's really changed it with the recruiting of high school kids going from school to school to school. We've lost a couple kids over the years, but, we've always said, if you don't want to be here, then, we're happy to try and help you get somewhere you can go and be happy. But the kids that have been there, want to be there, buy into it, and continue to be hard workers and great players and great young men for us. So it's been great.
I think basketball overall, that whole feeder system, in the old days, every coach said, a good coach made their kids better. Unfortunately, what's happening in today's climate, and because there's so much money involved in the game, is that coaches go out and get better kids.
Yeah.
So teaching a kid how to be a point guard, I'll just go recruit a point guard. And we're talking about high school.
Right.
And so all your discipline, and a lot of that is kind of gone out the window in a lot of programs, because winning, and because that high school coach now thinks he's going to get a college job because there's so much money at the college level. It's really turned high school athletics in the wrong direction. And so when you still have guys that are around like Toddy and people that are his assistants, they're still trying to do things the right way and be willing to bench kids and discipline kids. It's really kind of unusual. It really is, at least in our state. Okay, I can't speak to other states, but I would assume it's getting that way everywhere.
And how do you think you identified a problem clearly, but what types of things do you think would be solutions? Like what are some things that would help turn that around?
Well, number one is why are we paying a basketball coach $5 million a year? Okay, that's the most asinine thing I've ever heard of. Okay. I'm very blessed. When I started in the business, Dean Smith, Judd Heathcote, and these are names you guys don't even know, Al McGuire, Bobby Knight, all the great coaches put on clinics because they had to make money, because they weren't making that much business. You coached because you loved the game and you gave back to the game. You have people now that are for the money.
Yeah.
And you have people now that are cheating in the game because there's so much money.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
That's a whole other conversation.
Cheating,
yeah.
Anybody that thinks that cheating isn't rampant is completely blind. Okay, because it's out of control. I always tell the great story. I turned down the assistant's job at Eastern Michigan and got it for one of my best friends, who Todd knows, and you may have heard the name, Ben Braun, who became the head coach at University of California later on. He became the assistant at Eastern. He then became the interim head coach at Eastern. They fired Jim Boyce. He then came and spoke as a favor at my banquet at North Farmington. And we were laughing because he was making more money as the head coach and teaching than he was as the head coach at Eastern. 8 years later, he got hired at Cal for $1.5 million.
Yeah.
You want to know what happened to the game? Yeah, I'm involved with Eastern Michigan to this day. You don't, there's nobody at Eastern should be making $500,000 a year coaching basketball. And I'm not
Yeah.
denying anybody making a good living. Okay, but it's really gotten.
Yeah. No, you bring up an interesting point, and really all sports industries are kind of feeling that. Basketball was really on the forefront because AAU really changed the game, back in what would it be, probably maybe the 90s or so, where that just started really becoming rampant, maybe the 2000s where it's really becoming rampant.
Well,
In
ask Toddy
football,
because he played on. Yeah, ask Toddy because he played on the first big Nike team out of Michigan.
Yeah, no, Toddy, that'd be great to hear kind of your experience or your experience with that.
I mean, I agree with, you guys. In the early 90s, it became out of control. The amount of money involved in athletics and the way, and at least in basketball, the way the shoe companies just totally changed the way the game was played. I mean, you basically got, today you have three shoe companies that are running everything. You have Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike. They each have their own AAU circuit. And I would be hard pressed to think that on the Nike circuit for the Nike teams, that of all the kids in the country, I would say less than 10 kids go to a non-Nike college. And the amount of money that is pushed, I mean, those kids get unlimited amounts of shoes in the summer for basketball. They get the shoes that are coming out the next fall for basketball. The way it's changed is just unbelievable. And I agree with, my dad that there's nobody there that should be making $5 million. I mean, you're a basketball coach. Let's be realistic. You're not, and half of those kids, I mean, Coach Calipari at Kentucky, half of those kids are there for 4 months, 5 months. And that's, it's hard for me to see that you're worth that kind of dollar figure in athletics and in the education field, basically, is what we are, when you're only having that much input on a kid's life and not really developing a young man over the course of 4 or 5 years.
And that's interesting you say that, and a lot of content to digest. A couple of things that I'm pulling out, from your high school perspective. Coach Noakes talked about kids getting paid and whatnot. Have you guys experienced that on your side? When speaking with recruits or recruiters, talking to, kids that you're coaching at the time, or, within the AAU, and how do you kind of react to that or respond to it as a high school coach?
We've, over the last couple of years, we've been very fortunate. We've had some kids. Amari Hardy went to UNLV. He was recruited by Oklahoma State, Illinois. And that's the one thing. When a coach comes in, I'm old school. I have no skin in the game where a kid goes. So I always tell coaches when they call and they come in, listen, in some aspects, I don't care where he goes. As long as he can tell me that he's happy and that's the best spot for him and his family, then I'm happy. I'm going to support the kid 100%. I don't want to know anything else that goes on. We all know it goes on. I just don't want to know about it. It's got nothing to do with me. If a family wants to be involved in it, they can. But, we all know what's going on behind the scenes with the college recruiting and the amount of money being shoveled to kids and their families.
Sure.
Stephen, to piggyback on that, one of the names of the kid that really got caught in the crosshairs was Kyle Alex.
Yeah.
And, he's playing professionally over in Europe, and Kyle was going to leave Central Connecticut, and because his old AAU coach got involved, he went back to Central Connecticut because he couldn't deal with it, because he was trying to basically sell him. Hey, coach, I'll get you Kyle Vanellis as a transfer, but it's going to take this, it's going to take that. I need a job. And I think the other thing, though, is it has to be put in perspective. Young kids today think that happens for everybody.
Sure.
Everybody's not a Chris Webber, okay? And they think they're going to get all these promises. I think Coach Mantilla, who's one of our assistants, he says it the best. When one year we had 12 Division I schools at different practices for us, and he'd say to all the kids, just so you know, let your parents know they haven't asked about any of you. So you get this in perspective. Yeah. You're not going to get paid to go to a Division I school, and you're not going to get a Division I scholarship. But part of that is because of the money that the parents see behind all that. Again, that goes back to the money that's involved in the game. I mean, when Todd played AAU, he played for, it was called the Motor City Mavericks, right, Toddy?
It was.
Yeah, and his teammates were Dane Fife and him, Shane Battier, Josh Ashland, the 7-footer that went to U of M, and Leon Douglas, a kid that had come in from California. That was my first understanding of the new wave of AAU. Okay, they traveled the whole country. Everything was paid for me and Coach Fife because we were the dads. We traveled with our sons. And I always tell everybody this story. If my 5'9" son came home with 25 free pairs of shoes, what did Shane Battier come home with?
Yeah.
Right? What
Yeah.
did the 7-footer Josh Ashland come home with? That's what I said, I'm not saying it's real crooked, but I'm just telling you, this is not headed in the right direction, boy. You know, I
Yeah.
told all the coaches when we came back. You know,
And Coach, what year was that? You said that was like in the, that would have
what year
been
was
mid
that, Toddy?
90s, or you said
That
like,
would have been like 97, 98.
so yeah, we went for a good another at least 15 or 20 years there where it was kind of unregulated.
It's not regulated.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
It's really bad. And then, well, I remember telling the football coaches, when they allowed this 7-on-7, because football was smart, they didn't have any AAU going on. This 7-on-7 is a nightmare for football coaches now.
Yeah, it changes the whole entire atmosphere, and it comes to even recruiting, and when it comes to the shady stuff that can happen behind the scenes, it just exposes that. But again, with a parent, you can kind of I try to empathize and see where a parent's coming from, and not that they want to ride their child's coattails, but they want to maybe save themselves $150,000 in student loans. They get enamored by this, and they start paying crazy amounts of money when they're 10 or 30, 11, 12 years old to go on these, around the country tours and stuff. So it's just amazing how youth athletics have changed.
Well, the other thing, Adam, is they all have a trainer. They all have trainers, and every trainer has no vested interest in you except for money. That's all they care about.
Coach, do you like having multiple sport athletes? I know this is kind of getting on a different subject, but that's something that I found has popped up over and over. And now that people have to specialize, did you like your guys focusing on basketball? 'Cause basketball is almost, you have to be a gym rat if you want to be, if you want to be decent. And then if you have talent, you still have to be a gym rat to be really good. It's hard to play other sports. Did you guys like guys playing other sports, or how did that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think the more sports you play, the better you are.
Yep.
I just think just because you're really good in one sport doesn't mean you're going to be really good in another. It teaches you how to become a better teammate. I think you become a better athlete all around when you're doing different things. I think the more, and I'm a firm believer of, you get 4 years to live probably the best experience of your life, which is high school. You ask anybody that's played college athletics, they'd go back to playing high school over playing college. Because that's the kid you grew up with, kid you've known your whole life. Those are the best friends. And I think that if you get a chance to do anything in high school, you need to do it. Do as much as you can in those 4 years, whether it's athletics, school stuff, whatever it is. Be involved, be with your friends, because those 4 years are going to go by fast, and you're going to wish that you had done more.
Toddy, do you feel like amongst your peers of coaches now, and not only the league, but say the region that Midwest, is that common, or do you find yourself as an anomaly with that type of mindset?
No, we're an anomaly for sure. It's be in the gym 24/7, 365. You got to be with, like we said, be with the trainer.
Right.
Be with an AAU guy, be with this. And kind of what you said, Adam, I think about it is parents are trying to save that $150,000 for education. Well, from the time the kid's 10 to the time he's 18, how much money did they really blow?
Right.
They basically could have paid for a kid's education. Like, that's the way I've always looked at it.
No, yeah.
But no, I think we're an anomaly. I think it's very different. I mean, we're fortunate at North. Our football coaches just came over from Farmington Hills Harrison, where they were super successful, as Stephen knows. They won 13 state championships. And we laugh all the time with those guys. I'm fortunate enough to be on the football staff now too. And when they were at Harrison, they couldn't get basketball players. They couldn't get football players to be able to be accepted in the basketball program.
Yeah.
And for us to all be on the same page at North now, and we got one strength and conditioning coach who is probably the best high school strength and conditioning coach in the country, in my opinion, and be on the same page of kids doing multiple things. You know, in the fall, you need to play football. In the winter, if you're not playing basketball, you need to wrestle. In the spring, you should be running track or playing lacrosse. But you need to do as much as you can in those 4 years and becoming a better athlete, becoming a better teammate, becoming a better person. And it's been, the sad part is people don't think like that in our society anymore because of the selfishness of my program needs to succeed so I can get to the next level as a coach.
Yeah. You talk about anomaly, and I think this is a good segue. You know, Coach Nogues was at North for 25 years, and Toddy, you've been there for 9. So quite a bit of tenure. And you have talked how it's so money driven. So coaches are constantly looking out for their personal success to take that next step. Why have you guys been able to last so long at North Farmington and not kind of been pushed out the door?
Well, I told them when they interviewed me when I retired, Stephen, because I had been a junior college coach and a small college coach. I had told them that the next person that gets my keys, and didn't know if it was going to be Todd or somebody else. I said, won't last as long as I've lasted. Okay, those days are over. Because in the old days, as they say, I became a coach because of my high school coach, who won 26 district championships. Okay, and I thought he wasn't a very good coach. I found later he's not bad. Okay, he made a difference in a lot of lives. High school, you can make a difference in a lot of lives. Not just the kids that are going to go play pro basketball, but you're going to make a difference in the kid that you keep that might have a bad home situation that you're going to end up taking care of. You get to be a big difference in our society. I remember walking down the hallway when I was thinking about becoming a teacher and a coach, and we were walking down the hallway at Pontiac Central. And I said to Coach Grubb, I said, Coach, why do you coach? And a kid walked by and said, hey, Coach. And he said, you see him smile, Tom, when he said, hey, Coach? He says, that's why I do that. Because coaching for a long, long time, and even to this day, I feel that way. That word coach has a special meaning, especially in high school. You teach in the district, and you couldn't coach in the old days unless you were a teacher. You couldn't coach in college if you had a master's degree and could teach a class. So we have really changed that whole value system as to what it's about. It's about developing young men. And I've always had a saying, and I know you've heard it, Stephen. I said that part of high school coaching is whenever I found a kid that was non-coachable in high school, I was scared to death because I was going to be a non-employable adult.
Yeah.
Not a very good adult, okay? You can't, I coach college, okay, and I'm still close to all my college players, okay? But I coach small college. So how much of an input can you have? And I know you can have an input, but I don't think you have the developmental input that you do in high school. I really don't. And I was blessed, I for whatever reason, they kept me around, okay? We had a lot of success, but I don't think that's why they kept me around. As Stephen would testify, we ran a pretty disciplined and tough-nosed program, and I think that they enjoyed having that there, and the parents backed it. I'm not sure how much longer Toddy will last, because the whole parent society structure has really changed. Everybody wants you to discipline the other 4 kids and leave their kid alone. That's what's happening in basketball.
Yeah, no, the power of parents has really taken away from what they, like you said, the special word of coach, and that's a sign of respect. It's also like, hey, like, those couple hours that I have with your child, like that, have faith in me that we're going in the right direction here, and that's we can go down a whole weird like societal change that's happening and especially in youth sports. So I do not envy, and I do think Toddy, commendable job in this day and age of sticking to the morals and sticking to the what you deem as important, because we're being kind of quick to change that, I guess.
Well, you have to be willing to lose, Adam. You have to be willing to bench a kid and lose a game.
Right,
And
right. And
that's not an option today for a lot of
right.
coaches and parent programs. You know, we lost the game. Why'd you bench my kid? Well, he wasn't at practice for 2 days. Okay, so I'm not going to play him. You know, that's really become, you almost have to teach parents now and coach parents as to what the state should be. And that's no different.
And I think piggybacking off of my dad is, I think we've been able to make it because of our staff. I think we've always put a great staff together, guys that are on the same page as us, guys that believe in the same thing. So there's never really any infighting about disciplining kids, sitting a kid. I mean, our JV coach, Pete Mantilla, was a varsity girls coach for 15 years, was a varsity boys coach for 2, and just doesn't want the headaches and the hassles of being a varsity coach anymore. I mean, he checks our JV and freshman kids' grades every Sunday, and we go over it with them every Sunday at practice. And it's when you're all on the same page as a staff. I mean, that's the biggest key. And then at North, we've been fortunate. I was able to ride the coattails of my dad's program and the relationships with the teachers in the building, the hall monitors, our administrators. They trust us 100% that we're going to discipline a kid. We're going to hold a kid accountable. We're going to make kids go to classes. If a kid, is failing a class or struggling in a class, it's, Stephen, as you know, the worst thing in the world for our players is watching a teacher walk in the gym during basketball season. It's just because they just know that we're going to support that teacher 100% no matter what a kid says, and we're always going to believe the adult. And it's just been, that's the biggest thing, is if you don't have guys that you can go to war with every day on your staff, that you believe in the same stuff, have the same philosophy, then you're not going to be long for this business. But we're very fortunate that we do have, a great staff, a great group of guys, and all see things the same way.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to be able to experience it myself, and then obviously with John and my 2 cousins, Mark and Kirk, before that. And you're right. I mean, I apply what I learned in basketball. I'm serious about this to my life now, like my work and how I collaborate with my teammates. Just that accountability and hard work and trust in each other, because I don't know, I truthfully didn't get that from other sports. But I do want to dive into that a little bit, because you guys did have so many themes that you kind of indirectly applied to your players. I talked about accountability and hard work and trust, because we did run a full court press. So you had to trust what each other was doing, or else it wouldn't be successful. How did you guys kind of develop that mindset? Was it something that you came about like year 1, 2, 3 for you, Coach Nogo? And then it kind of just evolved from there. Like, how did that mindset kind of take over your program?
Well, a couple of things, Stephen. I think number one is what I grew up in a basketball community, unbelievable, where it was a great tradition. I came to North Farmington the first time from a junior college, and I tell the great story. I rolled the ball out for the kids to play. Nobody even picked it up. It hit the wall at the other side of the gym. I said, man, am I in trouble, okay? I mean, North Farmington was a football mecca. And I said, what have I gotten myself into? They didn't want to play anybody good. I said, man, this is going to be a long uphill battle. So what I did, I used things that I got from a coach by the name of John Wooden from UCLA, Judd Heathcote at Michigan State. When I was a small college coach, we played double hitters at Jenison because not enough people would come to the main game, so that's how they filled Jenison, a double hitter. So I used a lot of things they gave. We've got to do something at North that our kids are going to be able to do that nobody else can do. We have to be able to hang our hat on something, and that's when we came up with the full court press, make or miss. The kids refer to it as 32 minutes of hell. And then part of that is, and I've done this my whole career, is that young people, just like a worker, think that working hard or there's been a lot demanded of them. They don't have a clue what their threshold is, where they can do with that demanding. And I told you this a couple of times in our get-togethers over the years, is that as a teacher and as a coach, you don't get what you teach. You get what you demand. If you demand excellence, you get excellence. If you demand hard work, you get hard work. You don't just ask for it and teach it. You have to demand things. And I use always the example, and you've heard it. When your parents used to tell you when you were young, take the trash out, and you didn't take it out, take the trash out, you didn't take it out. When dad had consequences and demanded that you took the trash out, the damn trash got taken out. And that ain't no different in coaching. You have to demand it. And like I said, I was blessed. I got to go see Bo Schembechler coach. I got to see, Dean Smith coach. I got to see people and Bobby Knight and the demands they put on young people. And then got to how those young people all came back. I think that was always the thing that we tried to hang our hat at North Farmington. And I've been very blessed because Todd's continued that great tradition of just outworking people and playing harder than anybody else. And it's not cut out for everybody. There's some kids that leave because they don't want to work that hard anymore.
Well, and Coach and Toddy, I want to kind of ask you both this, but I guess I'll go with Toddy first, and then Coach, you can follow up. There's only one way. Like if you're going to try to outwork somebody, there's only really one way to do it. Then you have to practice really hard. Is that kind of something like you kind of hang your guys' hats on and kind of been your staple?
It is. I mean, we believe, at least I do. I believe we practice harder than most teams play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
a lot of kids. And I'm a firm believer that, to be a leader, you have to set the example. And it's like I tell our kids, nobody in our program is going to outwork me. Nobody's going to put the hours in that I put in, going to scout, breaking down film, making sure we're prepared every day, making sure we're prepared for practice. And I think once you set that tone as a coach and challenge your kids to try and outwork you, because they all say they love the game, but are they going to outwork you? Are they going to work harder than you? And that's just been our mindset. And, the only way we can, I'm a little old school. It's practice is supposed to be so hard that games are easy. And we've really kind of followed that mentality in our program for a long time. And then I also, I was fortunate enough to coach in college at Oakland University for Greg Campy, and he had a great saying. And I think the Patriots use it too, and Campy always use it. It's just, everything's real simple. Just do your job. If you just come every day and do your job as a coach, as a player, as a manager, as a trainer, we're going to be pretty successful. And that's just kind of the mainstay of our program right now, is just do your job every day. Don't do too much. Don't do too little. Just do what you're supposed to every day. Give us everything you got every day for an hour and a half in the gym. And let's see where we're at the end of the year.
Yeah. And Coach Noakes, before you hop in, I do just want to say a funny story. So obviously, whenever we got hit with a baseline, that meant that, just down and backs, just start running down and backs. And how many times it was just run, and we'd always fight it. And that got applied to, social settings with my friends, Tommy and Dylan and those that played in the program. And whenever somebody would do something wrong in a social setting, it would just be baseline. Just be out at a bar or something, and you just start do down and backs.
And I've had people say to me, how can you be so tough on kids? I said, hell, every alumni I've ever come back has said I've gotten too easy. I mean, everybody says I ease up on the kid. I mean, it's unbelievable. They want you to work the kids harder because they understand, having gone through it. You're teaching mental toughness. You're teaching them how to step up to me as a coach. You're teaching them how to deal with disappointment, that you're going to work hard. You're not working as hard as you could to help your teammates. It's not about you. You're letting the team down. It's like I tell them, we don't have your name on that jersey. We have North Farmington. And we've gotten away from that. Okay? And we're going to get further away from it. I'm not saying that college players shouldn't get paid. But now that you're going to get paid for having your name on a jersey, we're going to get further and further away from the things that that's why high school is kind of like a last stance here. And some colleges. So it's just a little worrisome for me, only because of, what the way I grew up and the way I was able to coach and the people that taught me how to coach. Young people today want to get to the top without working hard. You can't get to be a head coach unless you put your time and into it. A great story is Jerry Tarkanian, the great coach at UNLV. You'd call up to interview with him, and his first question would be do you own a set of golf clubs? And if you said yes, he wouldn't hire you because that's how much time he expected you to be coaching and recruiting. You didn't have time to golf. And you were paid so little money back then, it was unbelievable. Today, with all this AAU circuit and stuff, the game has changed so much. College assistants are making $500,000. Some are making $1 million. Some of the football guys, as you know, Adam, coordinators are making a couple million at some of these schools.
Yep.
So I'm sure they're not, worried about how they're going to recruit or how much time they're putting in. Are they putting a lot of time in at the game? Yes, they are. I guarantee you the old guys used to put in more time for a lot less money. That's a worrisome thing, I think, in today's sports.
Yeah, and gosh, there's so many segues we can go off into this, but the first one that pops in my mind is, we have been talking about, what made you guys you? What defined your program? And, as an alumni, it's obviously stuck with me, but did you guys ever, doubt the system or doubt the values and coaching themes that you harped on your students for so long?
I think every year I don't think you ever doubt your philosophy. I don't think you ever doubt what's really important, your commandments of the program, the 10 Commandments or whatever you want to call it. I don't think you ever doubt the working hard, the discipline. I think every year at the end of the year, any good coach kind of goes back through and says, hey, what can we change within our program? Should we run the press? Should we play more zone? Should we play man? And trying to adapt to every kid. But I think as a coach, once you start second guessing your philosophy of what's really important and what your program's based on, I just think it's a slippery slope downhill really fast. And like my dad said, I'm a firm believer. Every kid wants to be disciplined. Every kid wants to be held accountable. Every kid wants to be shown how to work hard and have that work ethic, because every kid wants to be successful in life. They just don't know how to get there yet. And I think we're having to teach that more and more now in our society because of the easy way out that we're teaching kids in different ways, in different aspects of society and life.
Stephen, I think there's two parts to that question. I think Toddy said it the best. I don't think you ever want to get into big philosophical changes about discipline and things like that. But I think you're constantly tweaking yourself as what could I have done better to put our kids in a position to win a game? And if you're not doing that, you're not a very good coach.
Sure.
I still don't sleep after a game when I help Todd coach or help a couple of the other, I've started 12 different people in coaching. And they'll call me, or if I go help them, I don't sleep well, after losing games. And we say to the kids, do you care enough that it bothered you that you lost? That's the other part that's changed. Let's not give everybody a trophy now. We still play the game to win. So tweaking that part of it, I think, is just being a good coach, constantly learning, constantly going to clinics, constantly listening to other coaches, going to practices. But philosophically, I think you got to decide, am I going to be a demander? Am I going to be a pushover? What am I going to be here? Okay, nice guy, and then you live with that philosophy, because if you change that philosophy year to year, you don't stay consistent, how are your young kids going to know what they're going to get into?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the things I was the proudest of is when you came to North Farmington, whether you liked it or not, you were playing for Coach Nogan. And this is what he was about.
Yep.
Now, when Toddy took over, it took a couple years, but he also got to a state championship. When you came and played for Toddy, you're playing for Toddy now. This is what his expectations are.
Sure.
Okay? This is his philosophy. And I think you have to do that as a coach. I think if you talk to Coach Harrington, the famous football coach that won 13 state championships at Harrison, and now he's at North, he'd tell you the same thing. Some years they run it, some years they throw it, they do different things, but his philosophy as to what he does football-wise, how he attacks the game and how he treats kids, I think that is consistent through his whole career. I don't think that changes.
Sure. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. And it's definitely true. I mean, it's not only, game by game and season by season, but it obviously depends on the kids that you have on your team. If you're not as athletic, maybe Johnny will be upset with this, but Johnny's year compared to my year, we had a lot more athletes, and you could do different things with that. But hey, I do have a new topic, and we touched on it a little bit earlier, but I wanted to touch on social media. You've talked so much about the change in the sport, and how kids are maybe more individually minded. How would you compare? And let's start with Toddy. How would you compare, the pre-social media days with the post-social media days, where obviously it's way more prominent, and you have some kids that are freshmen and sophomores that have 2 million Instagram followers. Like, how did that change in your eyes?
Social media has promoted me, myself, and I instead of a team or a program or a school. And to me, that's sad. I mean, I sit on social media, and I'm one of the downfalls of it. I post a lot of stuff on our basketball account on Twitter. I try and brag about our kids because I know that's just kind of the way our society's gone. But you sit on it now and kids brag less to receive an offer from so-and-so. Well, whether you put that on Twitter or not, you're going to get that offer. And I think it really has changed our society and our culture to be very selfish, me oriented, and not about a team or a program anymore. Like me as personally, and my players know this, it drives me insane when I see a kid in any sport post on there blessed to receive an offer from a Division III college. Well, you never did receive an offer from a Division III college because Division III colleges can't give athletic scholarships. So that just shows that we're promoting me, myself, and I more than anything else right now. And that bothers me because that's not what good teammates do. That's not what good players do. And I've always been under the impression that if you're good, you don't need to brag about it. You just know you're good. Just back in the day when you were a tough guy and you could beat anybody up, you didn't brag about it. You just knew that nobody was going to mess with you. You just walked around and you just had that swagger, and that was it. That was good enough. But now we have to brag about it and let everybody know. And with that becomes the downfall of social media. Some of the stuff you post is going to cost you a scholarship if you're not smart about it. It's going to cost you a job down the road. And I don't think kids get that when they're 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, that's with them forever. And, every 4 or 5 years, we always try and bring in a social media speaker and talk to our kids about it and the downfalls of it and what it really can cost you. But it's changed the way our game is. It's changed society big time. And I don't think it's changed it in a good way, unfortunately.
Stephen, we used to have a saying, and it's changed, but I'm going to tell you what the saying used to be. I don't have the whole complete, but fame is man-given, talent is God-given, be humble. Fame is no longer man-given, it's self-given. You're giving yourself fame all the time with the way we're doing social media. I mean, I think we've lost a lot when newspapers aren't writing about teams, scores, kids. Okay, now all this fame and social media is self-given. You're talking about yourself all the time. I haven't seen anybody post anything, and I don't get a lot on Twitter and all that, but I've never seen somebody say, hey, this is Todd Negoshian, and I'm glad that Billy Johnson got offered by U of M. I've seen Billy Johnson say, hey, blessed to be offered. And Billy Johnson say, blessed to be offered again. That's self-given. Mm-hmm. Why do we have to give ourselves fame? If you have that talent, you need to be humble about it. Because not everybody is given that God-given talent. I mean, that's just, you had a kid named Alex that played for us, whose grandpa was a great player at U of M. And Alex could have been a Division I basketball player. He averaged a double-double for us. He could have been drafted for baseball, went to Cincinnati to play baseball, turned down all the basketball people. And then when he got about his third year, he got tired of baseball. Now he's got a big-time job out in California. He never once bragged about anything. He was very humble. He had a goal set in mind that I needed to get my degree. This is the field I wanted to be in. And yet we've had kids that have gotten caught up in this whole thing. That you see what they put on Twitter and you say, where's the level-headedness about this? Where's the sense of direction that I needed to head to become a successful adult? You know, that's only going to last so long about them Twitter things. You know, how much longer are you going to keep saying you were offered? 25 years old, 30 years old, huh? That's history now, right? You can't keep giving yourself fame. Hey, I'm the best worker at Hewlett Packard. Are you going to put that on Twitter too? Come on.
And Coach, we both you and Todd have addressed it, and Steve knows this. You know, I'm not the best with social media. I do see how technology and its value and how its connectiveness and how it can bring people together. But I can also see how, just like with anything that changes, there can be the opposite side to it. So I guess my question would be, I guess now it probably more pertains to Toddy now, but both you guys, you can please hit on it. There is ways to, I guess, and especially now in this coronavirus, this pandemic, whatever you want to call it, this forced of separation. Have you been using social media to connect with your players at all, or?
You know, I think it's a great way to mass communicate. You know, we have open gym tonight at so-and-so, and if you tag one of your players in it, it's retweeted 200 times in an hour. There are positives of it, but you know, the hard part is the self-promotion and stuff like that is really the downfall. And listen, I'm a big technology guy. We're one of the only schools in the state of Michigan that has a huddle camera mounted on the wall in our gym that records every practice, every game for us. We don't have to have somebody do it. It just records it. Yep. So, I mean, and it's huge for us because we can watch practice as a coaching staff and just kind of break certain things down. And it lets us record JV games now, freshman games, and just do different things without having somebody man an iPad or anything like that. So I'm all for technology when used the right way, but it's you know, it's young people not being taught by veterans and older people of the right way to do things and kind of the negative side effects to different things. But no, it's during this whole coronavirus thing we've tweeted out, like, we got back, we were cleared as of yesterday to be back outside working with our strength and conditioning coach. So as soon as we set our schedule, we put that on Twitter and our guys all retweeted it, and, you know, mass communications through the Huddle app and different ways to get with guys. But, you know, there's just like anything, there's positives and negatives, and you just got to take advantage of the ones that are going to benefit you and your program and do them that way, and, you know, go from there.
Sure.
I'd agree, Adam, too, that, like, I mean, I go back to the days where I'd have to have the pencil for scouting somebody and pull the reel back, okay? So, yeah, I mean, Toddy taught me how to be on Huddle a few years ago, and I said, holy God, is this easy? Oh, my God, I think I died into heaven. So I understand the technology part of it. The only part I get mad about is when I say to the kids, hey, did you contact somebody? And they still, you know, and I'm probably should start texting kids, because I think kids listen to text messages better than they do phone calls. And I'm just telling you that.
Well, the phone call is a lot. It's a lost art a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah. Greg Campy said, Tom, I couldn't get the kids to listen to me in person. Then when I text them this stuff, you know, at Oakland University, kid says, Coach, I got you. He says, hell, they don't want to listen to me or don't want a phone call. They just want a text message, because that's what they're used to. So you have to be willing to change. But I'm still a firm believer. You know, we live by the text message. I still think you got to teach kids, hey, have you called any of your teammates? Have you talked to any of your teammates?
Right.
You know, that's something in our whole society that needs to be dealt with. You know, we really work hard on kids now looking you in the eye when they talk to you. You can't get a kid. And we got great kids. I mean, you know, our kids are all good students and all that because we don't take anybody else. But, I mean, think about that. When that kid goes for an interview, is he going to text the guy that's interviewing, or is it texting each other questions? I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I mean, there needs to be a push to some of the stuff that really needs to be done so this kid can be successful, especially boys. Okay, and you know, that goes back to that one question you asked about playing other sports. I always tell parents, I said, are you really kidding me? You don't want another male figure in charge of your son while he's going through his high school career for 2 hours a day? I said, you can't get him in enough things to keep him out of trouble. I mean, we're all boys. We know. Trouble can find boys, and I'm telling you, it's and good kids. I think you have to be smart about that. And just I don't mean to jump around on you, but coaching is like being a family. We all talk about that, okay? And one of the things that I've told every parent group for 50 years, there's days when you're at home, and I tell them, there's days I don't like my kids. I don't like them. I mean, there's days I don't like Toddy up to right now, to these days, okay? But we always love each other. Because we have, and Stephen will tell you, this is our tradition. When you come into practice, you got to shake our hand. And when you leave, you have to shake our hand no matter what's happening during that practice.
Really? Okay, I wasn't aware of this. So is that a tradition, and where'd you pick that up?
I picked that up, it's got 45 years ago. And you have to, because we'll have other coaches from college say, Coach, I said, they're going to come and shake your hand too, because they don't leave the gym, because we still love each other. I said, they ain't going to like me. There's days Stephen left the gym, he didn't like me. I guarantee you. Okay, but they knew, that's part of the thing that we've lost in not passing that on from clinics and things to coaches, But kids know when you care about them. It has nothing to do with how much you yell at them, how much you're in their face about stuff. They know when you care about them. Okay? And all that is just a simple little thing, the way you conduct your family. We'll always love each other, but there's days we're not going to like each other. And that's okay. I can't be liked by you every day.
What's ironic about all of this is another thing that we were taught is no hats in the gym. And here we are on a podcast, and Coach Noakes has got his hat on over there inside.
That's because I haven't had a haircut in 4 months.
Well, maybe I didn't have a haircut in 4 months when I was playing in high school.
It's good to call me out. It's off now. And Adam, just to give you, people say to me, why do you, and Todd's done a better job of that with, I said, look, if you can teach a young man that he has respect for the gymnasium, he takes his hat off no matter how old he is. And our alumni come back and I just stare at them and their hat comes off, okay? Think about what kind of a worker that kid could be. If you as an employer said, this is something we have to do. This is what we do at our company. The way we answer the phone, the way we treat a customer, the way we respect these people. And once you say that to parents, because they think you're nuts, okay? But that's why it's so important, I think, communication part with parents and adults in today's society. Because they really don't have a clue, because most adults today that have kids involved in athletics weren't involved in athletics themselves. That makes it difficult. It really does.
Yeah, you're trying to communicate a language and a form of discipline that's, you're I don't know, you're trying to explain to somebody again has the faintest idea of what that means and why that's important and why going through hardships and discipline and like you said, having a standard to live up to is important to do, and it molds you, and it especially for young men, it kind of I guess it was kind of sands or smooths the edges, I guess, a little bit to make you a person that can go and be successful in this world.
And I think that's all hopefully something that will start to come back, because I think we've gotten away from it. I really believe that. I think part of that is, and I'm not knocking people that aren't educators, but my son's not an educator. In the old days, you didn't coach if you didn't teach. If you weren't a teacher in the school district, you didn't coach. Okay? And the AAU's brought some of this into play too. It's like Tom Izzo said to me, I'm tired of talking to the local barbershop owner about the kid that I'm recruiting because he's his AAU coach. I want to talk to the high school coach. I want to talk to the high school counselor who knows this kid. You know that from you. I mean, you got to find out what kind of a kid you're getting.
Sure.
There's some schools that have got into some big trouble because of that. Because you really don't know what you're getting anymore a lot of times.
Sure.
And so I'm hoping that it's going to go back to that. Time will tell.
Yep.
Part of that is the responsibility of not just basketball, but any level of sport. The college coaches and the older coaches putting on clinics for the younger coaches that hear these stories and that are told that here's some stumbling blocks that you're going to go through, and it's okay. We've all been there. Don't give up. You can fight through this. And that's not being done anymore. We don't have a lot of great clinics being put on.
Oh, really? So that's
You know-
actually something, sorry, and Steve, not to jump in there, but
No, go ahead.
I want to hit on that and Toddy, you as well. But exactly, and I think, Coach, you hit on it earlier. It's like this giving back kind of mentality, or this,
Right.
especially for young coaches, is, to be amongst your peers, to bounce ideas off each other, but then also to have that support, to know that, as things are changing, that, the things that you believe in are still ring true and still are important. Those type of clinics aren't happening as much.
They're not happening at all. My first clinic was in Grand Rapids. I went up there and I got to see, and again, they're names that you may recognize. I got to see in one clinic for $25. Smith, Al Moyer, Bobby Knight. I can't remember who the other 4 or 5. And Dean Smith opening, to this day I can remember. First thing he said, he was the first speaker, he says, "I don't know why all you young guys want to get into coaching. It's the dumbest profession in the world."
I feel like all coaches say that.
And he used some really great language too, okay? And I'm going,
Yeah.
what the hell am I doing here? I got to be out of my mind, okay? I'm a junior college assistant. And he just went in through the whole thing about how you're going to get second guessed. He said, "My wife had to tell me to shut up in the stands. My 5'5" son gets in the game, and I'm up second guessing this great high school coach. My 5'5" son is lucky to be on that team. Because my wife says, if you don't shut up, I'm divorcing you. Because I'm yelling at this coach about what he's doing." And he just said, "You're going to get second guessed. You're going to be picked on. You're going to be," he went through the whole list of things. And, you're a young guy, you're going, "Oh, yeah, sure." And then you hear it from other guys at different clinics. And pretty soon when it happens to you, you go, "Oh, shit, it happened to Dean Smith. Hell, I'm good, right? It happened to Bobby Knight. Shit, I'm good. Hell, they can do it to them. They can do it to anybody, right?" Shit, and I don't think we're doing as good a job as that. That's one of the proudest things I am about, and I said that in the one newspaper article, is that he respects that part of the game and tries to give back to it. We've had, what's that called, Todd? You had me on.
Zoom.
Zoom. You see, I don't even know what the hell it's called. I was teaching the press to got 13 guys, Stephen.
Yeah.
On
That's
Zoom.
hard. I can't even
Well, you
imagine.
should just getting on the Zoom was hard. Teaching the press was easy. Okay.
That's a good.
And that's the thing is, real quick, Stephen, that's the thing is, I think when I was a younger coach, coming up, you had the guys that wanted to help younger coaches out. But we just went through a whole lockdown, quarantine, whatever you want to call it, house arrest, however you word it, in different states. And we were fortunate enough because we had different things. We had different coaches on to help guys get through it. So once a week on Wednesday nights, we had a college coach, Division II coach, a Division III coach, an NAI coach, talk for an hour, hour and a half. And the sad part is the Division I guys have got so much money that they don't need to do that anymore and give back like they had to back in the day. Back in the day, those guys had to give clinics to offset their income and give back to the coaching fraternity. And now they don't have to. And that's just kind of where it's gone to now with everything. And it's, it's a shame because the stuff they've gone through are things young guys are going through. And even when we talk in a small group of coaches during this whole thing on Tuesday nights, there was probably about 10 or 15 of us. And, you're bouncing basketball ideas off each other, but you're also bouncing off, I got this kid who's going to come back this year and I don't know how to get rid of him. I got this parent that's crazy. I got this booster club problem. I got this administrative problem.
Yeah.
And guys were just bouncing things off each other. How do you handle this? How have you dealt with it? And it's sad that we have to go amongst each other to do it when there's guys that have climbed the ladder that are still facing those problems that could reiterate, hey, that's just a normal problem. That's not just you. That's just, I have it at the college level.
Yeah.
And this is, and that's just, the mentorship is just really gone right now in our profession, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, sorry, Steve, and I just want to say, I'm sorry to jump and do that, but you have to ask this. No, sorry, but it just kind of resonated with me. I didn't think about, is how important truly, I guess that is. And I know in football, and playing football coming up and then coaching and then in collegiate, and seeing how going back to say like a high school or like the high school association, the conference, and how important that is, but not really truly seeing like truly when it comes to it is it's really that brotherhood, it's that bond, and how important that is to maintain or to have. And it is kind of unfortunate how I guess fame and fortune allows a coach to maybe lose track of what's really the important part of what they're doing, and that's how they get there. They got there because somebody else told them a little bit about the way, and it's important to give back. So it was just very interesting to hear you kind of reiterate that. And do you foresee that changing in the future? Like, is that something that maybe you can be more to do, or is that just something that's maybe a lost thing?
I think it's a lost thing in our world. I mean, we're fortunate in our state. We got Tom Izzo, who makes time for any high school coach, anytime to talk, to invite those practices. Greg Campy at Oakland, who I was fortunate enough to coach for, is the same way. Those are old school guys. I don't know how many big Division I coaches are old school in regards to that aspect of making time for high school coaches to just sit and BS with and talk about coaching in general and the issues you're going to face and the things they've had to overcome. And Campy and Izzo are two very outspoken people who part of it is neither guy's ever going to get fired from their job. They've been there long enough that they make those universities, and they're able to speak out on a lot of topics and say a lot of things that some people would get rubbed the wrong way, but they understand what they're going through. I mean, Campy speaks out about the transfer portal, about how bad it is, and openly, and people don't even bat an eye anymore. And it's just, some coaches would say that and they'd be fired and they'd be suspended, but we have to do a better job in the coaching fraternity of helping young coaches out, because once you become a coach, it's you versus the world a little bit, because every parent is against you. Every administrator is going to side with the parent for the most part.
Right.
You have to be willing to take that on and know it's not you personally, it's the profession. And I don't think we do a real good job of reiterating that to young guys anymore and helping them get through the tough times.
Sure.
So-
It's going to scare a lot of coaches away, isn't it? I mean, it's a tough racket. There's no question.
They had some art at them about how fast coaches are getting out of the profession instead of staying in it for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And it was titled something about "We Eat Our Own Kids" or something like that. Yeah. Bo Schembechler, who I got to go see run practices and coach football, he made such little money in his assistants that his camps were strictly for money, and he started a fund so his assistant coaches could send their kids to college.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All money went into a bank account that he controlled, that went to help his assistant coaches send their kids to college. When Toddy says old school, you got to remember, Izzo and I started together. He was making $5,400. I think I was making $8,200. Okay. There aren't people like that in the profession. Campy was a Division II head coach. He understands what it is to make your own sandwiches and drive your own van. And those people aren't there anymore. We're bringing in facemen, we call them. Bo Schembechler said that all the time. He said, I'd never get hired again. They got to hire a faceman. They don't want me.
That's a term I've never heard. I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got the face for it, Coach. Don't shoot yourself short.
What's that?
I said you got the face for it. Don't shoot yourself short.
Coach, not the new ones. I'm not going to. Yeah.
And that's the thing. You think about the guys that are really the outgoing guys that are very outspoken, and those are the guys that have really climbed the ladder and gone from Division II coaches and work their way up. The guys like Bruce Pearl, who was a Division II coach, and now, he's a big-time Division I coach. Frank Martin, those guys are very outspoken. Bob Huggins, those guys are so outspoken, but they've also lived in different societies and climbed the ladder and had to pay their dues. A lot of young guys don't have to pay their dues anymore. They're getting things that they haven't earned and had to put the time in for yet, so they don't know how to give back to young coaches.
Well, I think of, I every time I participated, I got a trophy. So why should I have to give back, right?
Exactly.
If you're going to tell me Coach Nogues is not Bob Huggins, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, they're the same, both big defense guys. They both kind of look the same. I don't know. That's just
Well,
me.
I always used to tell everybody in the old days I had a great saying, and then I had to stop doing it. Coach Mantell said to shut up about that. I used to tell everybody, hey, go get me fired to every team. Go ahead and get me fired. They didn't fire Bobby Knight yet, have they? You have no Well, then after they fired Bobby Knight, Mantell said, you better shut up, man.
Yeah, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, that shit ain't gonna fly anymore. I mean,
So,
let me give you one other story because I know you guys are. Dean Smith, he got old and passed away and had dementia and stuff pretty bad. Till when he was still healthy, every one of his ex-college players had to send them their monthly portfolio investments because then he'd have his guy check it to make sure they weren't getting screwed over.
Wow.
The grown men, some of them making millions of dollars to play in the
Yeah,
NBA.
sure.
wow.
And they said, and if you didn't send it, Coach might fly to your house to pick it up. That's how much he cared about. Now that ain't happening. Okay, in today's day, you know what I mean. Dean Smith worked his way up through the ranks. Dean Smith came home from a game, and they had a dummy with Dean Smith written on it. And he was hung because he lost a game to Duke. And he said, "I didn't go home that night. I spent the night at the field house." He's scared to go home. So those are stories that people don't understand. And all the Izzos and the Campies and all those guys and Huggins that have all come up through the role, they didn't just go from AAU to, hey, no, they actually know how to coach.
Right.
Right.
I sincerely mean this. Tom Negoshian's not somebody they want at the collegiate level. They want somebody that can bring in players. They don't care if you can coach. Now, Michigan State cares if you can coach. Beeline cares if you can coach.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of places. Who can you get me? Just think of the number of dads that have been hired as assistant coach so you get their kid.
Right.
Right? I mean,
Yeah, that's big at the college football level. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, and how many assistants are there now, behind the scene assistants, not just in college basketball? College football, they got assistants upon assistants upon assistants.
Well, that was going to be my last question is when is it enough for you guys? Like how many coaches can you possibly have on your bench? I always felt like we had 12, 13, 14 guys that were we had more coaches than players.
Black jackets, right, Steven?
Yeah, seriously.
Hey, there's never enough. How about that? The more eyes we can get correct people and holding young people accountable, the better it is. It's like my dad said earlier, unfortunately in education, we've gone away from hiring people that are going to do more stuff after the school day's over. They want people now that are going to be at committees and do this and do that instead of being in a gym, in a classroom, in a theater, doing stuff with kids after the school bell rings and the day's over. We need to get back in education to hiring people that are going to be with kids beyond that school day. And whether you like it or not, if you're not, then you don't get hired. We don't need people that are going to be on a committee for this, on a committee for that. Those committees don't mean anything. Those committees don't help kids. We need people that are going to spend time with kids, hold kids accountable, and more importantly, in today's society, are going to be there to support kids emotionally and mentally, because coming out of this quarantine thing right now that we've been in our society, no matter how good or how bad your home life is, being at home with your parents or being at home, period, wasn't good for kids. That's not. Kids are going to need coaches more so now than ever. Our football and basketball staff talk about it all the time. We need to, we're fortunate. Our team doctor put on a mental health clinic for coaches on spot and signs of depression, anxiety, social distance of kids coming out of this, because we know kids need us more so now than ever. And people need to understand that. And we need to do a better job of hiring teachers and hiring people in education that are going to do that. Even parents, even hall monitors, people that are going to be around kids all day, every day, and enjoy it. And, we need to do a better job. And to answer your question, Stephen, anybody that wants to wear a black jacket, hold North Carolina, They got a job with us.
There's your plug for the interview right there.
Well, I'll tell you this, Stephen. How about you answer it? How many people do you need if we had 12 Stephen Bills?
I think you need 2 coaches. Just
No,
you
we
2.
need 12. If we had 12 Stephen Bills, we need 12 coaches. How about 12, we had 12 Dylan Close as your teammate?
Now you need 12. You need 12 coaches there.
I think Stephen, in all seriousness, what happens, every adult in their own way, like Jerry Young, who Steve, Coach Young, that's been with us now as a volunteer for, I can't tell you how many years.
A lot.
Coach David that was there when you were there.
Yeah.
Every male figure in some way can maybe connect with somebody that somebody else can connect with.
That's a great way to
With
put
all
it.
the mental health issues we have in today's society and all the things that are broken down in our society, that's just another way of a young person, young male, able to connect with a male that can give him some advice. And I think you can't have enough of that. I really believe that.
That's a good
Just somebody
perspective.
it just, that's always been my philosophy. I don't care how much basketball, we can take care of that, but you might be able to connect with Billy. You might be able to connect with Johnny. That's the key issue. I'm not going to connect with all of them, neither's Todd.
Yep.
Somebody.
I mean, Stephen, our 2 freshman coaches this year, and I think I'd be hard pressed to think that there's better freshman coaches for kids than what we have. Our 2 freshman basketball coaches are football guys.
Well, he knows the one.
Yeah, I mean, Mill Coleman, who played football at Michigan State, played for the Lions. I mean, he's our freshman basketball coach. He is great with kids, and that's all.
That's all you need at that age.
Yeah, but we can teach you basketball. We need you to be good with kids. We need you to be able to relate to kids to be able to trust you. And then we have Steve Galero, who's our freshman coach, who's a worker in the district and coaches football at North Farmington and coached football and track at Harrison for 15 years. Those are people that kids like, kids respect, kids love, and kids trust. And that's all you can really ask for, because then they can be there for kids and make a difference.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And I hate to do this because I know we could keep going and we might have to have you guys back on at another point, but we are running out of time, or else the listeners will lose interest. But I do want to ask you guys any closing remarks, anything you'd like to push across the kids or other coaches out there that might be the biggest thing that you guys have each learned along the way.
I think for coaches, the biggest thing is thank you. Whether you believe it or not, whether you know it, you're making a difference in a kid's lives that you might not realize it. They might not realize it till later. But, everybody says they want to coach, but nobody wants to put the time in, because it's all fun on TV when you get to see people coaching games and all that. But all the behind the scenes stuff in practice, the grades, the dealing with bad home lives for kids and all that, nobody really wants to be a part of. And to anybody that is coaching, I say thank you, and I think you're a godsend, and you're paying huge dividends in society and in kids' lives, and I appreciate it, and keep doing it, because I respect it, and I know there are a lot of other coaches that respect what you're doing.
And Coach Noakes, before you go in, and a lot of players, Toddy, that appreciate it too, and kids, and that's part of the reason why we started this podcast. It's to highlight those coaches out there that everybody's not coaching for Bill Belichick. Everybody's not coaching for Tom Izzo. There's the majority, it's not as glamorous as it seems. And that's the point of this, to highlight those coaches and the grind it takes to be successful. But Coach Noakes, I'll let you say your part.
Well, to piggyback on that, Stephen, it's perfect the way you set it up, is that if you're coaching to become rich, don't coach. If you're coaching to become famous, don't coach, okay? There was a great research done by the academic people. The correlation between your ACT score and your success rate in college, and I'll say that again, your ACT score and your success rate when you go to college. So if you're higher ACT score, what happens? Mm-hmm. Correlation of that is 0. 0. I love the academic people. If you're involved in an extracurricular activity, it goes up 5%. Now, not just basketball, And I always say to parents, so do you want to go do the ACT, study for the test? You want your kid involved in choir, chess club, band, sports, whatever it may be, drama club, or do you want to go study for the ACT test? Because there's the evidence. And so if you want to make a difference in a kid's life by being a coach, have so they can be successful when they go on as an adult, then God bless you and thank you. But don't do it for the other reasons, because that's not what's new. So that's what I would say to young coaches.
I love it. No, that's great. That's great. And thank you both, obviously, for coming on. You know, this is close to my heart because you both have had such an impact on my life positively. Some negative.
You can't always be positive.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
To offset it.
Right. No,
I mean,
but I really
when you get off
appreciate
the
it.
thing, if we want to talk for a minute, I'll give Adam all the dirt on you too. How's that?
I love it.
No, in all seriousness, no, we really appreciate it, and would love to have you guys back on again. Maybe Coach can get a haircut for us next time, but
No, and
I'm wild, man. I'm rebelling.
I love it. I got the quarantine hair going too a little bit here. I'm sorry I had a hat on this whole entire time too, but I just want to say thank you to both of you guys. This is my first time meeting both of you, and I really enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure. It's really enlightening and rewarding to know that it's the meat and potatoes of it all is still there, and that is still being taught, still being preached. And just to kind of piggyback or leave it on something that has always resonated with me is that they say a coach can touch more lives in one season than a normal human being probably does in their entire lifetime. And so again, thank you for being a coach. Thank you guys for both being coaches, and to all the other coaches listening, thank you so much, because it's a great responsibility, but it's very, very important, especially in this day and age. So thank you.
Thanks for having us, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having us, and thank you for spotlighting coaches. It's really appreciated.
of course. All right, guys. Cheers.
Yeah. See you, buddy.
More
See
than
ya.
a feeling, no, it's something I believe in. You light up the night, yeah, you light up the night. You got the sun in your eyes.